Right behind me is a stop sign from the video game Grand Theft Auto 5, and it's one of 4 stop signs at this intersection that help manage the traffic flowing through this neighborhood. You might think it looks pretty good, but in fact, this stop sign is illegal. Okay, illegal is probably overstating it, but it's definitely not up to code. You see, Grand Theft Auto 5 is based on the city of Los Angeles, which in real life is in the state of California. The state of California has a 1,200-page document called the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, also known as the MUTCD, that lays out all of the rules for putting up traffic signs in the state. It's a public document that you can download as a PDF, so I took the liberty of printing out a copy and putting it in this binder so that I could easily reference it while playing Grand Theft Auto 5. Let's turn to page 128, shall we? Quote, "At intersections where all approaches are controlled by stop signs, an all-way supplemental plaque shall be mounted below each stop sign." Do you see a supplemental plaque on this stop sign? No, you don't, which means that this sign is non-compliant, aka illegal. And if the stop signs in this game are illegal, what about all of the other lesser-known signs? Grand Theft Auto 5 has 14 different commonly used street signs, and what we're going to do today is drive through every neighborhood in Los Santos with a copy of the California MUTCD next to us to try and figure out if any of the signs in this game are up to code. Spoiler alert. Like I said, we've got 14 different street signs to look at today, and of those 14 signs, 9 of them are considered regulatory signs, meaning that you have to do what they say or else you're breaking the law, and 6 of them are considered warning signs, meaning they provide useful information to the driver but don't actually compel the driver to do anything. We're going to start by looking at all of the regulatory signs, which includes the most popular sign of all, the stop sign. Regulatory 1-1, also known as the stop sign, is the very first regulatory sign listed in the entire MUTCD, and for good reason. It's probably the most iconic traffic sign in the world, and anyone who's ever driven a car has interacted with one many thousands of times, hopefully. Despite what we saw at the beginning of the video, the stop signs in GTA 5 are actually pretty good, especially compared to some of the insane signage mistakes that we're going to look at later. They're generally placed within 50 feet of the start of the relevant intersection, always on the right-hand side, and as close to practical to the intersection without sacrificing visibility. Those are really the main rules when placing a stop sign. There are a few exceptions to this though, like these insane stop signs that just face out into the street, providing no help to anybody, or this stop sign that's blocked by a utility pole, making it hard to see, and the worst stop sign mistake I found, a stop sign at an intersection that also has a stoplight at it, which would be incredibly confusing if you came across it in real life. You think you could get a traffic ticket if you ran a stop sign that was in front of a green traffic light? We should look into that. If you ever come across something like this in real life, it means that somebody probably made a big mistake, and you should definitely report it to your local city managers. Incorrectly placed stop signs can get people killed. Sorry for being your dad, but you know, you have to be responsible and take care of your community sometimes. The second most common regulatory sign you'll find in this game is one you probably haven't paid very much attention to at all. Regulatory 10-7. Do not block intersection. For some reason, almost every intersection in Los Santos has one of these signs leading up to it, and ironically, you don't technically need them. It's already illegal to block an intersection in California per section 22526 of the California Vehicle Code, which states, quote, "A driver shall not enter an intersection or marked crosswalk unless there is sufficient space on the other side to accommodate the vehicle without obstructing the passage of other vehicles or pedestrians, even if facing a green light." I feel like Legal Eagle. Putting up these signs is mostly just to make it easier for police officers to write tickets for certain intersections where they think it's very important not to block them, like high traffic areas or streets with transit lines on them. So, are these signs compliant with the law? Personally, I don't actually think so, because while they are used in the correct areas, let me read you this quote from section 2A04 4 of the MUTCD. Regulatory and warning signs should be used conservatively because these signs, if used to excess, tend to lose their effectiveness. Now, I do admit that the language here says should be used rather than shall be used, which means it's technically just guidance rather than like a regulation, but I want to hold Grand Theft Auto 5 to the highest possible standards, so I think someone should go through and remove at least half of these signs from the game. Another sign that's insanely overused in GTA 5 is Regulatory 4-7, which is the keep right sign. Unlike the previous sign though, this one is almost exclusively used incorrectly. What this sign is supposed to be for is indicating to the driver that the lane that they're in is going to shift to the right to go around an obstacle like a median, so the driver needs to pay attention and keep right when that happens. It's not supposed to be placed on every single median willy-nilly, which is basically what it is in GTA 5. Especially because in GTA 5, the lanes never have to shift. They just go straight, so it's not like the driver has to do anything anyway. In fact, one could argue that having these signs there when you don't need them might make you get nervous and cause you to think that you're going to have to shift to the right, which might make you shift to the right and could cause an accident. Not good. Get rid of them. The rest of the regulatory signs are kind of a mixed bag. For the most part, speed limit signs are done pretty well. There are a few cases where they are incorrectly placed on the left side of the road rather than the right side, but aside from that, we'll call them compliant. The no U-turn signs are actually fairly well done as well. I don't think I saw a single one that wasn't in a place that couldn't be considered reasonable. One-way signs, of which there aren't a ton, are also kind of used correctly. Technically, all the ones I saw were on one-way streets, which is good, but they were all placed in areas where the only people who could see them would be people who were already driving on those one-way streets, which kind of defeats the purpose. Then we have the do not enter and wrong way signs. A good amount of these are used reasonably correctly, but the ones that aren't used correctly are used really incorrectly. And the worst example in the entire game is this: a stop sign and a wrong way sign mounted on the same pole. You would never do this. I've been racking my brain to think of any circumstance in which you would want to do this, but it just doesn't make sense because a stop sign is meant to be approached from its face. By its very nature, you have to be able to drive up to it and then stop so that you can go past it. But the wrong way sign means that if you do go past it, you're going the wrong way, down probably into oncoming traffic. So not only is this dangerous, it's also illegal, which is worse. The very last regulatory sign we have to look at is Regulatory 1-2, the yield sign. Maybe this one will actually be used correctly. The MUTCD says this about the yield sign: the yield sign shall be a downward pointing equilateral triangle with a wide red border and the legend yield in red on a white background. Okay, we're up to a good start. This is in fact a downward pointing equilateral triangle with a wide red border. Let's see what else it says. The yield sign shall be installed on the right hand side of the approach to which it applies. Oh. Okay, let's look at some other ones. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense either, does it? Like, look at this one. What are we yielding to here, right? You have this one here. The only thing we could be yielding to would be the driveway of a single person's house. Maybe it's the mayor. No. So it turns out the yield sign is also non-compliant, which means that on the whole, the regulatory signs in Los Santos, kind of a disaster. Driving in Los Santos, you basically have two options: follow the signs or drive safely and efficiently. You can't do both. Sometimes the signs literally give you conflicting information. There's even an intersection in the game where following the road markings leads you to driving directly into utility infrastructure and onto some train tracks. As you can imagine, not a great idea, which kind of leads me to wonder, if you did have a city in real life that was somehow built like this with road signs placed incorrectly all over the place, who would be at fault legally? Picture yourself as a normal citizen of California driving down the road when you stumble across this: a stop sign in front of a traffic light. The light is green, so you figure that you're allowed to go through, but then you get a ticket from the damn police. Those damn police. Are you allowed to then go in front of a judge and say, it's not my fault that I ran the stop sign because I was really confused? I feel like ignorance is not a suitable excuse for like breaking the law, but I'm not a lawyer. And for this, we're gonna need to talk to a lawyer. So I called a lawyer.
Boy, I went to law school for this. All right, so here in this clip, they are bowling through a stop sign, but it's a stop sign in front of a green signal. Just thrilling stuff. Usually we're talking about, murder and defamation, but what people really want are highly technical traffic manual analysis videos. And the client is going to argue that when the city sends mixed signals, they can't be cited for following the green light rather than the stop sign. And I think this one is on pretty solid legal footing. The California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices says specifically in section 2B.04, quote, because the potential for conflicting commands could create driver confusion, yield or stop signs shall not be used in conjunction with any traffic control signal operation. And when you're looking at a law, the word shall means that you have to do that, full stop. So here, this city or municipality does not seem to be in compliance with that. I think the driver has a very good argument that they were following the law as one of the signals was indicating. It was a green light, so they had free rein to go forward. If you find yourself in a situation where you are trying to contest a traffic ticket, take photos, take video, have some documentary evidence so that they have some reason to believe you, because obviously everyone contests their traffic tickets, and usually it's just he said, she said.
Okay. Interesting. But what about a slightly more ridiculous situation? Remember how we said that the California MUTCD advises against overusing signs because it'll make people ignore them? I want to know, if I got a ticket in Los Santos for blocking an intersection with one of the do not block intersection signs, could I argue that the city should have expected me not to follow the sign because there's too many of them? Like, literally, it does say that this is a problem in an official government document, so I feel like this is a pretty good defense. Let's see if the lawyer agrees.
All right, now in this scenario, the client is cited for blocking an intersection, which is one of the cardinal sins of urban driving, unless you're in Washington, D.C., where blocking the box is less a traffic violation and more of a hobby. Now, I don't think our client is going to be able to avoid liability here. That guidance is meant to prevent information overload, where you often see, 8 feet of, parking explanations as to when you can and cannot park in a given parking spot. There are memes that have gone around the internet that show it's totally incomprehensible. A lot of which, again, come from Washington, D.C. One sign in one intersection, even though there are other singular signs in other singular intersections, that's not going to work in terms of trying to get out of that particular traffic infraction. It said, don't block the intersection, and it's pretty clear, it's not excessive, and just because there are a whole bunch of other intersections throughout the city that also should not be blocked, doesn't really matter. So yeah, not gonna get out of that one.
Well, there you have it. Shout out to Devin for participating in this. I do have a couple more unremarkable and odd legal situations for Devin to go through later in the video, but in order for you guys to understand them, we're gonna have to talk about the other half of the street signs in this game, the warning signs. There are 6 warning signs in the game, at least that I found, and each one is supposed to give drivers some piece of useful information about the road that they're driving on. Let's start with the only warning sign that's used semi-correctly in this game, Warning 21-1, the construction worker sign. These are used pretty much exclusively on the interstates in the game to mark sections of the road that are under construction. In Grand Theft Auto, that typically means it's marking off a spot where the wall of a raised interstate is missing so that you can do a sick jump off of it with your car, but I'm actually going to count this as compliant with the MUTCD because the signs are all technically placed alongside actual construction zones. Construction zones, in a sort of an abstract way. Beyond that, though, things are not quite as clean. You've got Warning 11-2 and Warning 11-3, the pedestrian and deer crossing signs respectively, and while there are instances where these signs are placed correctly, there are also plenty of spots where they're just thrown up on the side of the road or even along hiking trails, like this one where you've got them side by side at the start of a hiking trail, almost as if the game is using them just as like indicators that you might see people and deer in a place, as opposed to signs for cars, which is what they are. This would be kind of like if you put a deer crossing sign up at a petting zoo just to let people know that they might see deer. It's not really what it's for. Things don't get any better from there, though, as we take a look at a sign that literally is never used correctly in the entire game, Warning 12-1, the pass either side sign. This sign is meant to be used to guide drivers around some sort of obstacle where the lanes will eventually come back together and go to the same place. This means that in real life, if you see this sign, it shouldn't matter which side you go on. Both of them are going to the same place, they just need to temporarily diverge while going around an obstacle. In GTA 5, they only ever use this sign for lanes that diverge and then go to separate places. I couldn't find a single instance in this game where this sign marked lanes that diverged only temporarily. So if you're a driver and you picked the wrong side, oh well, you're just gonna go somewhere unexpected. And then the very last set of warning signs are these two, Warning 1-1 and Warning 1-2. Oh boy. This sign looks pretty innocuous, right? It's a right turn sign next to a right turn lane for people who want to make a right turn. But guess what? This is not a right turn sign. This is a road alignment sign. These signs are meant to be used for when you're driving on a road and then the road itself is about to start turning, like you see here. You see this most commonly when you're on roads outside of cities, and GTA 5 does have plenty of correctly used W1-1 and 1-2 signs. You just have to go up into the hills and the mountains to see them. But every time you see one of these signs in the city itself, it's wrong. What's funny about this is that these lanes, the ones with the white arrow on the ground indicating that you have to take a turn, aren't actually turn lanes anymore, or at least not mandatory turn lanes. The California MUTCD clearly states in section 3B20 that pavement markings are generally supplemental and are only there to provide additional emphasis alongside signs. They are not regulatory in and of themselves, meaning you don't have to do what they say, absent one of the various exceptions. So technically, if you're driving in a lane that ends with a pavement arrow indicating that you have to turn, but there's no additional signage telling you about this change, then you are legally allowed to continue straight if you want to, provided you don't endanger yourself or other drivers. Please consult with a lawyer before changing your driving habits based on a professional YouTuber's gaming video. I feel like that should go unstated, but I'm gonna state it. Actually, maybe I should just consult with a lawyer before telling you about all of these secrets that you can do. Let's talk to a lawyer.
All right, Caltrans, or whatever the Grand Theft Auto equivalent is, allows pavement markings to be used if engineers believe they are necessary to, quote, supplement signs and or to provide additional emphasis for regulatory warning or guidance messages provided by other devices. But the thing is, markings on the road have independent legal significance, so when an arrow says turn right, you turn right. There's no additional signage needed. The markings have force on their own as long as they're Caltrans approved, which it seems like they are here. However, that being said, the bigger problem here is that not only does the person not turn right, they also passed another car in the intersection, didn't use an indicator, and illegally merged from a 2-lane road into a 1-lane road. Clearly, here, the right turn only shows that that part of the road is ceasing to exist, which is one of the many reasons why they have to turn right here. But in my estimation, they're not going to get out of this traffic infraction.
Okay, that makes sense, I feel like. The one other thing I am curious about is this situation that we talked about earlier. You've got the left turn lane, which is fine, but if you follow that left turn lane using the guidelines on the road, you end up smashing into city infrastructure and get stuck on the train tracks, which funnily enough is technically blocking the intersection. So who would be to blame for this? Would it be the city's fault for building such terrible roads? Or could the city actually blame you for damaging city infrastructure and blocking the intersection?
So here in this clip, the car is following these traffic lines, but following those lines leads directly into a utility pole of some kind. Now, sometimes confusing signage can be a valid legal argument. Under California law, the government has a duty to maintain clear and unambiguous traffic control devices. And here I would definitely argue the markings are misleading and a reasonably careful driver could be led astray. So I think this is a perfectly valid case. I think you would be able to sue the city of Los Angeles and maybe the state of California under the California's comparative fault doctrine.
Now, full disclosure, there are a few street signs that are in GTA 5 that I didn't include because they weren't that interesting, like the no turn sign. And we also didn't talk at all about highway signage. So there really is plenty more to go look at if you're looking for an excuse to hop back into GTA 5. But between the keep right signs and the misused yellow turn signs and the stop signs with wrong way signs on them, I feel like it would be pretty straightforward for a talented computer genius to fix a lot of the signage issues in this game just by swapping out a few models. So I got in touch with the only computer genius I currently know, a guy in Germany named Timon, to ask him if he would take a break from his day job designing microscopic circuit boards for tech companies in order to help me fix some of the street signs in Grand Theft Auto 5. At first, he tried to tell me that just because he designs and manufactures PCBs, it doesn't mean that he automatically knows how to create a mod for Grand Theft Auto 5. But I told him it would be easy and then I believed in him. And I've got great news. If you look down below, you'll find a link to a downloadable mod that fixes many of the most glaring issues we've talked about in this video, including removing any stop signs that have wrong way plaques on them, swapping out the regulatory 4-7 sign for object markers, and putting the correct turn lane signage in downtown Los Santos. Now, at the end of the day, the thing that's so crazy to me about all of this isn't isn't that Grand Theft Auto 5 got most of the signage wrong. That doesn't actually surprise me at all. This is an extremely niche topic made up of thousands of niche rules and literally hundreds of different signs that could be used for a wide variety of situations. There are signs for bears, there are signs for fresh oil, signs for not drowning. This book is full of crazy niche entries for things that we needed to figure out to help people stay safe and efficient in extremely specific circumstances. It would just be a huge waste of time and energy for a game developer to get it all right, especially a game that actively discourages you from following traffic laws anyway. The thing that does surprise me about this whole endeavor is the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices itself. If you think about it, this book represents lifetimes of effort on the part of many hundreds of people to catalog and communicate a set of things that silently dictate our safety and efficiency every single day. And this is just for traffic signs. There is an MUTCD equivalent for every little thing in your day-to-day life that you no longer have to think about because somebody else did the thinking for you. Trash collection, legal proceedings, food safety inspections, grocery store stocking, water sanitation, computer chip manufacturing, crop harvesting, house construction, emergency room architecture. These are things that we rely on every day that we don't understand and that we usually don't think very much about, which is incredible. It's an amazing thing that we have so much and that any one of us basically never has to think about any of it. But when you forget that things had to be built, you risk inheriting them without gratitude. And if you do that, it's easy for someone to convince you that those things weren't all that important in the first place, which can then mean you lose them. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Oh, shoot. I just realized right now that I forgot to give you a list of all the rarest official street signs in the game. Like, I wanted to tell you about some ones that we didn't talk about that there's only like 2 of them. All right, I'll just tell you about them right now. The rarest sign, I think, in the entire game, at least official MUTCD signs, is this one, the Warning of Falling Rocks sign. I could only find 2 of these in the entire game. Other signs, like the no parking sign, are pretty uncommon. And then there's a cowboy crossing sign that's also not very common. But if you want to boot up GTA5 and go look for other rare signs, I would love to hear about those. You can post them down below in the comments and I will read them. We might just have to come back to this topic, honestly, someday because it's just so huge. But until then, I'm Any Austin. Thanks for watching.
Real. I'm about to take a nap, bro. I'm gonna play Battlefield later, bro. I think I'm pulling up the stream, patient. You know what I'm saying? Patient.
I'm smelling like a whole pound, but bitch, I'm on. Go that bed, feel $200, I put you on. Money on their head, I put them on T's, homes. I been like